everyone, and welcome to a special episode. In this episode, we are having a special interview with an actual game developer. Introduce yourself, Chris.
Hello, I'm Chris. I'm one of the game developers from Foggy Box Games. We made the party game Brunch Club, which came out on Steam and Switch recently. I'm an ex-student of yours, Ryan, as obviously you know.
Yes.
Yeah, from about 5 years ago. You, my college games technology teacher.
Yeah, was it really 5 years ago? Jesus.
Yeah, I think so. I think it might be longer. I don't know. I feel old now.
Yeah, could be old. Yeah. Well, as Chris here's just released a game, Brunch Club, as you just said, on the Switch and on Steam. Just recently released, wasn't it?
Yes.
A couple of weeks ago, wasn't it? Must
August 29th. It feels longer. It feels a lot longer than that.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
But yeah, recently.
So this is a special type of interview where we are more focused about the actual games development process and hopefully revealing a bit of the underbelly, the nitty-gritty side of games development to expose it to aspiring game developers and hopefully answer any questions that you may have about games development and the business itself. So first of all, Chris, where did you get the idea of the Brunch Club and what was the idea generation process like?
So for us, it was the 2016 Global Game Jam. So, okay. I mean, I love game jams as a great sort of quick source of sort of inspiration, coming up with ideas quickly. They're really good for that's why a lot of companies now go, every one Friday, every couple of months, we do a game jam, come up with a new idea, see what sticks. I suppose Bossa is very famous for doing that with a lot of their games.
Yes.
So yeah, it was 2016. It was the theme for it was ritual. So the idea for us was, what's something that people do every day? It's a mundane task. Oh, I've got to cook. Originally, it was just breakfasts. That was back when it was called the Breakfast Club, but that's a story for a later question.
Yeah, I bet.
So, yeah, we were like, that's something that people do every day. How can you make that a little less mundane? How can you make that just more fun? And obviously back then it was a lot closer to the times of, your Surgeon Sims, your Overcook's just sort of coming out because it had been announced and we'd seen it and it was stuff like that. We were like, oh, we could try and do a party game like that, because one thing I always shy away from, we were always told to shy away from, is AI in game jam games.
Yeah.
Because it's either going to be crap or it's just not going to work. The way to get around AI is just have people either working together or going against each other.
Yeah.
And we wanted people to be able to pick it up, understand that something, you all share a goal, and you go. And the idea sort of went on, and then we were like, well, what if, we want people to fail, but how do we do that? So it sort of came this thing where it was, well, what if something bad goes wrong, if you fail to communicate, you should be punished for that. So it was more that if you don't work together, if something falls off the play area, the whole level restarts. Right. That used to be a lot easier to happen because it used to be so very much broken. Like the toaster in the first level used to just go off whenever it wanted to. I mean, it was a bug. So you'd fail a lot more. So we've obviously had to rein that in and fix a lot of things since then. But yeah, that's the gist of it, is just, game jams. It was the ritual. How could we make that something that people could do together?
Yeah.
But fun and not, yeah.
Okay. So Foggy Box Games is, how big would you say Foggy Box is? And did it change over the course of the duration of the game development?
So we're two people. There's me and my mate Alistair, who I met at uni. We both worked at Play West, which is the enterprise studio set up there for the games side of things. So we worked on projects together with clients. So originally we did VR stuff, but there's still only two of us. We're both programmers. The way we set stuff out is I do more of the design and gameplay side of things, and Alistair does all the systems and like the back end side. That he loves doing that. He's very good at that. He says things I don't understand, and I'm like, good. I'm like, it isn't broken, so I'm assuming you've done a good thing.
Yeah.
And then, I'll be like, I need this thing to jump. I need this thing to do this. I'll do that. And I'll be like, you make sure when it does jump that it doesn't fly to the moon or something like that. Or like, if it does jump, it's put on the leaderboard.
Yeah.
That's how we sort of structure it. Is we're very small, so we have to sort of work with each other,
right.
And understand who can do what and play to that. So everything's organised in a way where, that seems like something Chris can do. That seems like something Alistair can do. So that's how we sort of go with it.
Okay. So being such a small team, how did you handle like the pressures of deadlines, and did it affect your working relationship because it's just two of you? You must have argued, I'm sure, during the course of development.
Well, the best part about all of that is that we also live in the same house share.
Oh wow, even better.
I can literally turn around, knock on my wall, and he can hear it. He can also hear me sing in the shower, so I always get those complaints as well. Yeah, that's always fun. No, it's all right. We don't have disagreements as such. We have strongly worded suggestions. Is the way I put it. Like, we understand if I come at him with an idea, or if he comes at me with an idea, we generally have, the stuff to back it up. I wouldn't if I went up to him and said, remove that, I don't like that. I wouldn't just say that. It would be, here's why, here's possibly an alternative, and do you think we should do this? If he turns around and says, I agree, but we don't have the time, I don't have I'll have to learn something new, and we just don't do it, then we go, okay, we'll have to make a compromise. And it's the same sort of thing. It's understanding, what each other can do, and playing off our strengths and weaknesses. And we've known each other for quite a little while now, and we've worked on like professional projects with clients. So
yeah,
and that was more for us. That was more sort of worrying as deadline stuff, because they're paying us. So that taught us a lot. And when you start paying yourself, the money becomes a bit more precious. So you're more wanting to get stuff done, not for deadlines, just because then you can move on to the next thing,
right.
And you get your money's worth with yourself. It's kind of a difficult thing, but you get used to it very quickly. Otherwise, you're stuck there for days and going, I've just earned this much and I've done shit all.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're adding like value to your day, basically. You try to balance it out.
It's programs per minute, kind of.
Yes,
I can't spend all day bugging this, so I'll come back to it because I know that I can sit here for the next 3 hours, not understand it, when I could be doing something else. We do that. We've done that quite a bit. We've just gone, okay, we'll leave that. We'll move on to something we do know how to fix, or we do know that needs to be done, and then we'll come back the next day, and hopefully, we'll fix. Like we've come back the next morning and gone, that's it, and you instantly get it because you've left it and moved on to something else and distracted yourself from that problem, which is a good way of doing things. Just don't fixate on certain things. Is what we've learned to do. Otherwise, we would turn mad. Yeah,
my advice for my students was, if you get stuck, just move on. Don't just settle on and basically stagnate on a single problem. You want to move on and keep moving. Otherwise, you feel like you're never making progress, and it can get you right down in the dumps. So you mentioned that you guys also house share. So how did you find balancing work and home? Did you have like certain rules? Did you say like a certain amount of time and then cut off, we'll switch off, or was it just work?
So that's where we both, me and Asa, differ quite a lot. It just as people, and just as like we both work as hard as we can during the day. But me personally, I struggle to switch off. So I'll be sitting at the computer, like watching something on YouTube or playing a game, and in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, what if we did this? What if we did this? And sometimes I've like just gone in, knocked on his door, and been like, okay, I've come up with this idea. And he's like, okay, you know what? I'll hear it. Sometimes he gives me the look, and he's like, can you? He's like, just stop. And I'm like, okay, shit, sorry. But yeah, sometimes if you've had a particularly rough day, you just want to relax, and I understand that, but sometimes I forget that.
Right.
Because for me, it's I've had a rough day because of this thing, therefore I need to solve this thing. But then it's also going into that saying, it's not that I'm, from the outside viewer, it might see that I'm putting in more effort, but I'm not. I'm just being a moron and focusing on it constantly, and it's actually probably detrimental to the process.
Okay.
So it's all that's something that I need to still do. Is obviously learn to just get home and relax.
Yeah.
Not get home and pull from GitHub and then try something out for the next 2 hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much how we do it. We've had a couple of late nights where we've just sat and discussed, like, if something's really bad or we need to come up with something, and we're like, okay, so what if we did this? What if we did this? Like, he'll be cooking dinner, I'll be, just sitting on the sofa with a cup of tea, stressing out, and we're both sitting there looking at each other like, what do we do? Yeah. So we've had that, but there is a balance, and obviously, so I don't really. My nights are always. This is going to sound really sad. My nights are always spent I always play with my friends online and play games and stuff, and that's just literally just how I social. But Alistair goes out and does stuff, and that's how he gets away from things. I suppose it depends on what kind of person you are. For me, sitting down at my computer after a day of sitting at a computer, if I'm doing something else, is still a break.
Yeah.
Obviously, some people can't sit at a computer all day. No. I guess that's it's a person by person basis.
Excellent. Okay, so talk about the game.
Yeah.
From a design perspective, what would you say were some of the biggest challenges that you faced during its development?
So I'd say the hardest part we have is, so all the levels are film puns.
Mm-hmm.
Again, because it was originally called the Breakfast Club. So the way we always worked was, it was like, let's come up with a pun. Okay, we have a pun. Now, how does that work as a food? Like, what are we making? What's the level mechanic? And what's the process? So take Mean Grills, take Toast or Recall. Yeah. So Toast or Recall, toast. Okay, so we've got toast. That's at least something. We know how to cook toast. It's a simple step: toaster, butter it. But what we do is we take a mechanic that is inspired by the film that it comes from. So Total Recall, and in Total Recall he is stuck between memories of being on Mars and of where he is now, because I'm not spoilers. I'm not going to ruin it for people.
It's quite an old film. I think they're fine.
They remade it. So we were like, okay, so how does that work? So that is where we came up with the mechanic where it switches between two dimensions, if you will. So every time the toaster pops, it switches. So that's how you have to recall where you left your stuff. So you can actually build a strategy up where you can leave stuff in strategic places. Like, you could leave a knife pre-buttered, so when the toast pops and the toast is cooked, you can quickly grab the knife that's already buttered and get it again, and you can build up a quick strategy to try and get the best time, because that's what it's all about. It's trying to get the best times.
Excellent.
So that's probably the hardest bit. But I think regarding that is in January. Originally we just had the toaster and it would just pop. And then in January, Yogs Games came up to us and were like, okay, we really like it and we understand, but they were like, where does the film stuff come into it? And back then, all the menu stuff was on the radio. Like, you'd be in the radio and the camera would just come out and you'd be in the level. It was really nice and seamless and loads. And we were like, oh shit, yeah, it doesn't really make any sense. So in one night, at the start of January, we sat down and we redesigned every level, trying to keep the name the same, but redesigned every level to have a mechanic based on the film. Originally Fry Hard was just cooking with bacon and eggs, and then Mean Grills was just cooking burgers, Scone in 60 Seconds was just going to be, you make some scones, and it's just called that because it's funny. But then we were like, okay, we need to really just break down everything and go, how does this work? So I watched a couple of films going, okay, Die Hard is just guns, really. And then I was like, so what's Die Hard with a Vengeance? Oh, it's just more guns and then more explosions. So we sort of took that and went, let's apply that to the levels. So that was probably the hardest thing, just a complete redesign in one night.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, that was one of those late nights in the kitchens, staring at each other, holding tea, just going, what are we doing?
So in your Total Recall, you said that you have the gameplay is basically switched between sort of two dimensions, so the Mars and the wherever he is the current location. So how did you actually, on a technical level, how is it actually accomplished?
It's actually really not complicated at all. So what we do is essentially, as the toaster pops, we have a selection of objects underneath the child of one sort of dimension, and we turn that dimension off, and then we just enable the other child's the other object, which enables all its children. The only thing that doesn't change is the toast. So there's 3 adults, or parent prefabs. That's the word I was searching for. Parents, adults. So you've got dimension 1 with all the items in. You've got dimension 2 with all the items in. Then you've got just like toast with all the toast in. So dimension 1 and 2 just flip on and off. And we just disguise it with some fancy effects on the toaster, so you sort of get distracted by that, and also a little bit of screen shake, so you don't really notice the immediate swap. We just kind of
that's cool.
Quickly just distract you to be like, oh, hang on a second, that's you've just turned things off. But yeah, it's nothing fancy. It's sometimes simplest things just
exactly. Yeah, that's excellent. So you said that you had you stayed up all night coming up with ideas of what you could do to each level to match the sort of film mechanics and so forth. Which one would you say was the one that gave you the most headaches, and what were the issues that you were coming up with?
So I think one of the hardest one was Mean Grills, because that was the first level we came up with where it wasn't just cooking something; it was like a construction as well. So obviously burgers needed the top and bottom buns. Yeah. So we not only had to come up with with a burger, we were like, okay, it's cooked, but we were kind of like, you kind of need to cook both sides. So we then had to make an object that holds 2 cookables, so you can flip it, and then it has like an overarching switch which just keeps track of both of those. It goes, as a burger, I am completely cooked, and then when that gets activated, it basically activates a trigger around the burger, which then waits for a bottom bun and a top bun. And just goes, I am cooked. I have a top bun. I have a bottom bun. It will send those objects back to the pool, and then it will grab a completed burger from an object pool, and then show that. And that's why everything pops in. Everything pops in because it literally is just being moved to a position, turned on, and other things to go.
And the physics to kind of take over and pop.
And the physics, it kind of helps with that little bit janky feel, especially with the eggs, because that's exactly what happens when you crack an egg, because the egg runs around as a whole object. And then it spawns in a raw egg, bottom half of the shell and the top half of the shell. And if you're an object leaning on that, they all spawn in the same position, so they sort of pop out from each other, which gives it a nice sort of like comedic feel. It is literally just because they're inside each other and the physics doesn't know what to do.
Well, I found it adds to the chaos of the party game when things just start popping all over the place. Like, oh my god, it's like you got to end up catching things and then freaking out because they fall off the table or something like that. So I feel that adds to the fun of it.
Yeah, I think another level would be the sashimi level. So in Now Sashimi, you can't really pick up any object apart from the rice balls, and it sort of moves into like a katamari, which I called a calamari damacy.
Okay.
Yeah, my life has been puns for the last 2 years. I hate myself for it now. And the hardest part with that was just trying to every time you pick up an object, you have to recalculate. Well, you have to merge all the meshes together, recalculate the movement sphere, because every object has a sphere around it. Yeah, and that's how it knows which sort of how much sort of the power and force. If it's a thin and long object, it obviously has an invisible, long, elongated sphere around it. So it's to move it lengthways, it's a lot harder. And if you say if it was like a chopstick, to roll it would be really easy. But to go from bottom to top and arch it over is a lot harder. And that's all calculated by just a sort of a contact point around a movement sphere. But you have to recalculate that. If you stick something to an object that's originally a ball, it then becomes like a longer, elongated thing, and then you stick another thing on, so it has to encompass everything. So you get that same feeling, just so that the movement doesn't change. Right. So it still feels like a ball, even though it's not. That was quite difficult, especially when porting to Switch. That's where we really struggled. But I don't know if you have a question about optimization and stuff, but I can talk about it then, or I can talk about it now.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, talk about some of the things you did to optimize it.
So, especially on this level, this is probably the biggest one. Is what we would do is it would basically cache all of the meshes on start. So every time you connected one, it would have to recalculate the meshes. So what we ended up doing is, at the start of all the level, we basically save a version of the mesh out for every object and store it. So it just reads from it. It doesn't have to create anything. It just reads. which cut down us. Like we used to hitch. So on the Switch, every time you would hit an object and connect to it and stick to it, you'd get a noticeable hitch, and it was getting really bad. And then Alistair and our friend Matt, they figured out that's what we profiled it, and you could see it every time. It was just like mesh calculations. So we were like, okay, so what if we just store all the mesh data, and then if all it has to do is fetch. It doesn't have to create anything new. It's not making loads of new vertices, and that it just has to fetch the data. So that's pretty much how we optimized it for that. But I mean, Switch is a powerful console.
This was your first time working on a Switch, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's the first time. It was relatively easy to get on. Like we had it. It took us about 4 hours from saying let's put it on Switch to getting it running on Switch.
Wow,
which isn't bad, and that was
good.
Downloading all the software and understand what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
That it pretty much works straight out the box. So Alistair was like, it's going to be like 5 FPS, and I was like, no, it's going to. I was like, I would be happy if it was above 30, and we put it on the Switch, and it was 52.
Wow.
FPS, and we were like, oh, wow, okay, wow. When we had a couple of shader issues, like with the rain. It would really tank, so we had to find some rain solutions that worked a bit better. But we have those. The rain that works on the Switch absolutely tanks on the PlayStation port that we're doing.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, so we have a PlayStation Pro, and it tanks to like 30 FPS from like 160. But that's just every platform has its different pipeline, and you've got to be wary of that. Not everything won't work. So originally when we put it on the PlayStation, every time we picked up an object, because it didn't like the outline shader we were using, everything would turn pink. The whole screen would just be pink.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So we had to figure that out. And most of the time, porting stuff is that your textures turn pink or shaders turn pink. And that's just because you have to change something in the shader. I don't understand shaders enough to say anything about it, but normally you comment out a line that everyone on the internet tells you to comment out, and it works.
Okay. That's
Google is good.
Yeah, I say you hear this meme of going around of like programmers' days are spent 95% on Google and a Stack Exchange to get to the end result.
And then the other is spent going. I know you've like when you go on a Stack Overflow and it's like I've solved it, and you're like, well, what is it? And they never tell you, so you have to spend, and you just get angry at them, and then yeah, they're the worst people.
yeah. So, you guys started a new studio. What were some of the hurdles you had to leap over that you did not expect at the beginning of this endeavor?
It's all the admin. Like I knew there was going to be a lot of. I'm not talking about government stuff. Like we all do our own taxes and stuff. We obviously that is quite difficult to do. If you go into it knowing nothing, which we did as well, but we sort of figured that out. But it's just some of the stuff we didn't know that you don't really think of, especially recently, obviously, when we released. So if you want your game to have a category on Twitch, for example, which we completely sort of forgot about, because when you're in the sort of the mix of a release, you're like not worried about that. But it is something you should be, because otherwise people can't set it as like a category on Twitch, which is quite a big thing now.
Yeah, of course.
If you want to do that, you have to sign up your game to Giant Bomb.
Oh, really?
The whole exactly. I didn't know that.
That's a weird way of going. So they're using a third-party website.
The whole Twitch API pulls all the game data from Giant Bomb.
Right, okay, that's interesting.
Yes, so we didn't know that either.
Sorry, for those who are listening and you don't know what Giant Bomb is, it's like an entertainment games website and wiki.
Old. It's old school.
Yeah, it's a almost like a journalistic website, but it has I guess it makes sense because it has this wiki filled with all these games. So I guess if you're going to pull something from somewhere, that's a good place to go. So that's interesting. Okay,
yeah, it was odd. It was odd to know when someone's like, "Have you set up on Giant Bomb?" I'm like, "Why would we do that? What does that mean?" And they're like, "Well, that's how you get it on Twitch." I'm like, "Well, doesn't Twitch just have a thing that I can log in and be like, here's a game?"
Think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah, they don't at all. But yeah, it's just going through all the setup. So a lot of publishers would normally handle like the going through the Nintendo stuff or
Yeah.
PlayStation, the Sony stuff. But obviously, with Yogs being quite a new company,
Yeah.
we were learning as they were learning,
Right.
which is nice. I really actually quite liked it because now I know what not to do. I need to have this many days ready. I need to have this patch, ready this many days before it needs to go up. It takes this long to do this process, this long to do this process. So it's been nice to know that.
Yeah.
Because I've spoken to people who are like, yeah, our publisher deals with that. I just get told to give deliverables. I'm like, okay, you don't know the pain.
So
because,
would you say Yogs are quite transparent with you guys and are sharing quite a lot with you?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, they're learning as we're learning. They want, but then if we have anything that we can say to them, they're happy to hear it. And if they have anything to say to us, we're like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. So they'll be like, oh well, we need these art assets, and we'll be like, okay, we'll get them over to you as soon as we can. Or we'll be like, hey, so and so aren't replying to our emails. They'll be like, oh, we'll chase them up. We know a guy there. We'll speak to him, and we'll speak to them and see what we can do. So it's nice. It's very much a back and forth relationship. But yeah, we're all learning, and it's nice to actually have an understanding of the back end.
Yeah.
So if we ever do, obviously, if the next game or the game after next, we decide to go off on our own and self-publish or something, we're not going to sit in the dark and be like, oh, how do we do all of this?
Right. Yeah. Obviously,
like we'll have our own account set up. Well, we've done all that before, so
that's brilliant. Yeah, that's really handy. So so you got published by Yogs. So how did that come to be? Like, where did you meet? Obviously in Bristol, so they're in Bristol as well, aren't they? So
yes,
you guys are relative neighbours. So that makes sense. So, but how did you guys actually bump into each other and get this sort of deal put together?
So I used to work for them.
Oh, okay.
I used to edit. I used to do freelance editing. So that's how I sort of made some money whilst I was at uni.
Mm-hmm.
I would just edit some videos, and then I got invited to the office a couple of times to work from there a couple of days a week. And obviously you talk to people and stuff. And then we did the game jam, and then it sort of went into third year of uni. So I stopped doing work for them, and we stopped working on the game because we were told that we should probably focus on university and not waste however much money we had already spent, which I agree with. It's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, yeah.
And so I got out of uni and didn't, obviously post uni I was like, oh, I should really try and get a job, but I really want to do games. I was like, maybe I can just get a part-time thing. As a professional freelancer, it can pay quite nicely depending on what you're doing or what kind of content you're editing. But I was like, maybe I can just get a few episodes a week from Yogs and see what's happening. And then I just got talking, and then they were like, oh, do you want to work from the office? I was like, yeah, okay. They knew what I did at uni and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then one day I was making a cup of tea, and obviously before me, they've published Cave Lasers.
Yeah.
So they were obviously already in the games sort of scene. And they turned around and was like, Chris, you make games? And I went, yeah. And they were like, do you want us to publish it? I was like, yeah. They were like, what game are you making? I was like, well, I said, you've already played it. So after the game jam, when I was doing editing work for them, they played it on the main channel about 3 years ago, which was the game jam basically alpha, which is the one, the broken one I was talking to you about. So if you want to get footage of that, I mean that's on there. It was the Breakfast Club back then.
In fact, I'm pretty sure there's video footage of it playing right now.
Yeah, so that I was like, you've already played it, and they was like, oh, I remember this game. Yeah, he was like, yeah, we'll take that on. We enjoyed it then. I'm sure we'll enjoy it when you finish it.
Yeah.
But which is a nice thing to do. They've been a nice publisher because they trust that we make what we want to make, and they don't interfere. Not that they don't have an opinion or they don't have a say in. They will be like, oh, why don't you try this? It's, we trust what you guys know what you want to make. Get on with it. Come back to us every time you need us for advice or this or that. But it's your game. We're not gonna strong arm. It's not like you're at like a huge publisher like EA who are like, no, do this because this makes the most money. Do this because we told you to. We're paying you. It's for them. It's you make what you need to make. We'll have inputs or we'll play test along the way and be like, oh, this works, that doesn't. Maybe do this. We listen. We give feedback. We receive it. It's nice.
That's good.
It's refreshing to hear when you hear some stories from AAA and
Yeah,
other studio
definitely.
It's nice to go into your first game going, oh, I have kind of complete creative freedom.
Yeah, so it's a
And
rare
a
thing. Yeah.
publisher. Yeah. That was nice.
Oh wow. Okay. So you've done the game jam. And after the game jam, did you continue working on it and working on prototypes? So at the start of production, were you just prototyping different ideas? And what lessons did you learn from your various prototypes?
So the game jam originally there was 6 people,
Okay.
and then after that it very much got. So after that we actually took it to EGX Res 2016.
Okay.
Where we were next to Overcooked.
Oh,
So
okay.
that was Overcooked's first public showing. They hadn't announced anything yet.
I think I was actually there. Because I remember seeing Overcooked there. Must have just missed you.
So we were literally to stand next to them. We were the only 2 cooking games at Res, and we were next to each other. We shared a table.
That's not good.
It was an experience. But they were lovely, so which is always nice. So we took to that, and then obviously we had to go finish uni, and people go off and do their own thing, and people have to go get jobs and don't necessarily want to risk going into indie development. So it actually got down to 2 of us, and pretty much after a month or so after Res, so that was April. So January to April, we did a little bit of work on it, fixing things. And then April onwards, it was pretty much, that's the build the Yogs played. And it didn't really get touched. And then when me and Asta spoke to our old lecturer about it last year, because he was on the team as well, Andy, we were like, we think we might do it and just finish it. We've got an idea. People enjoy playing it.
Yeah.
When we, let's see what we can do with it. And it was basically we rewrote it. It was game jam code, and it was just
messy. Yeah,
the worst. Every object thought it was toast. Every object thought it was toast and would check every update to see if it was toast.
Okay, so
I was like, wait, hang on a second. Why is this knife checking if it's toast? Not toasted. It thinks it's just toast, and I was like, okay. What? And then I noticed that the toaster was doing the same thing. I was like, okay, let's just scrap all of this. So we rewrote it from the ground up. During the game jam, Alistair did the models, which is why they're not really high end models. No, Shane and Alistair. We've got an art style because that's our art style. That's the best we can do. I feel like I'm really slagging him off here, but I don't mean to. I mean it in a lovely way. But it was good because we could keep it consistent. We weren't trying to imitate someone's art. It was just his. And with that, actually, and another optimization thing is we don't have any textures. So our game is 166 meg. Like, wow, that's it. Yeah. So our whole game, the largest thing is the music files.
Right.
We have no textures apart from the tablecloth and maybe a couple of menus. Other than that, it's all materials, and they're all shared materials. So we have like a list of his greens, his blacks, his reds, and we just pull from all them, and they're all instanced. So it just cuts back a lot on file size and also just on like draw calls and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it would. Yeah,
which is good for Switch again, but also it's just good in general because it means it can run on potato PCs.
Yeah, that's excellent. So everyone going into games development, I know I've experienced this. You hit a wall where you feel like this is what you're working on is rubbish. I can't. How the hell am I going to finish it? I'm stuck at a problem. I mean, I know first of all, and I've hit plenty of those walls before in the past, and I think everyone has their own coping mechanisms of how to get past that. Would you say you had that same experience, and what kind of coping mechanisms did you have to get over that wall?
So ours is quite a weird one. So originally we were both like, oh, maybe no one actually really wants to, maybe no one's going to not like this at all. And that's how we went to Res. So we went to Res to Yogs Games this year. And we went Cave Blazers, and then we had a double stand for Breakfast Club. And then we had Landlord Super, which is the developer of Jalopy, his second game, which is
Okay.
a Yogs Games coming out soon. Greg's a lovely man. And we were like, oh shit, what if no one comes up to our stand? And then loads of people came up, and loads of people were enjoying it. And I saw you there.
Yes.
And we had people coming back. We had people, shouting at each other in like a fun way, and then shouting at each other in a "I hate you" kind of way. Both of those,
Yes.
both of those reactions were perfect for us. And we generally had people asking, when's this out? Is it on Switch? And that was the big thing we didn't have. We didn't have any idea about doing Switch yet. Like, we wanted to do it, but we thought, let's do Steam and let's do online.
Mm-hmm.
And we had one person ask if it was going to be online, and then we had about 300 odd people just asking if it's going to be on Switch. So we made the decision after that to basically scrap online in favor of a Switch port. Because we had toyed around with online for a while, and it didn't feel right, because everything is reacting against something, and everything's like, if you have two objects pushing on each other, it just doesn't update quick enough, and they end up just going crazy.
So for anyone watching, one of the hardest things to replicate in online play is physics-based objects. They are really expensive and not the most efficient things to transfer over data.
No.
So
it's a lot of packets.
Yeah, that's why if you ever play an online game with someone and you see ragdolls happen, and you often see someone else's stream, and you could be in the same game as them, but have completely different environment because the ragdolls have gone weird or the explosions have happened differently. It's amazing how different it can be. And I say most games don't replicate physics because it is such a pain in the butt.
A good one is Overwatch. When you're in like the starting areas, a lot of the stuff is like pots and pans and all that is all client side, and everyone has their own thing. But yeah, so we decided then and there, and that was quite a big hurdle for us, because we went into Res going, oh, no one's going to like it, and we left Res going, people liked it, people want it on Switch, let's do that. And that was kind of a big boost. I think the hardest part for us, honestly, was post-release. Because, so we work with some guys who sort of help Yogs with the sort of consultants. So they help us sort of get through certain things that we just can't get through, like getting through contacts to people, and they'll be like, okay, we'll help you sort out. And they basically said to us, like, party games and offline co-op games, unless you've got a big publisher behind you, they're a slow burner. That you're going to have a bad first week. You're going to basically have a really horrible first month. And then when you sail, that's when you make money. And we're like, okay. So they're like, it's kind of a weird thing, but that's basically how it works.
Yeah,
you sell your product for what you think it's worth. No one buys it, and then you put it on sale.
Right, yeah. It makes sense, because when you think about party games, you typically, like, you have your friends come over, play the game, and then they go home and they buy it for themselves to play with other parties, and it's that word of mouth thing that goes on.
Exactly,
so with that genre, it makes complete sense, yeah.
Yeah. But it's very disheartening, because you've worked on something for so long and you're like, oh, okay, it's not selling as well as we thought, but we know it might pick up when we go on a sale.
Yeah.
But does that mean it's not worth as much as we've put it out for? And it's a very horrible thing to think of that thing you've worked on as basically not worth what you think it's worth. Pricing is a really horrible, horrible conversation to have.
Yes.
Because you have to just judge you have to judge the thing, you have to judge yourself, and you have to be like, what's my time worth?
Yeah.
I've spent a year of my life doing this. I've paid myself not much. I'd like to be able to back pay myself a little bit.
Yeah.
But, is it worth it? And the one thing to remember about pricing is that you can always go down.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I always struggle. I was like, well, price it low. And they were like, well, let's, hold off. Like, it's worth more than you think. You can always go down. If you go up, that's stupid. People will just complain. You can't really do that. You don't really see people go up in price unless obviously it comes out of early access.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can always go down. You can always sale. And if you're not happy with it, if you take 50% off, that looks great on a sale. People are going to pick it up because they're like, oh, I'll grab it. It's 50% off. It's a weird industry sort of thing that games has,
Yeah, it's all psychology, isn't it? So
yeah, you don't really see. I suppose you don't really see it with like music and stuff. I suppose it's always priced different. In movies, you don't go, "Oh, I'm not paying that to go see it at the cinema. I'll wait till it's 50% off at the cinema." It doesn't happen.
no.
It's a very fixed price. It's a weird one, but once you get over it, you're like, okay, just it was disheartening, but we were like, let's just keep making content. We've got some free content going out for it. Want to do these updates. We know that we need to do some bug fixes because we found some.
Yeah.
You just got to keep your head up and go.
Yeah, keep on trucking with it.
I'm hoping that answers your question because I forgot what it was.
I'm sure it did. So I guess the final thing I want to ask you is, so what's next for Foggy Box Games? You mentioned you're doing some free updates and some obviously patches to fix some bugs you found. What's next? What's your ambition going forward?
So in the next coming month and 2 months, we've got the Halloween content. So that'll be some spooky stuff. We got Night of the Living Bread. That's the
okay.
Yeah.
Good.
So that's like a zombie based level, and some other bits as well in there. What we're trying to do for PC is actually there's a program called Parsec. What Parsec does is it enables you to host an like a couch co-op game, and then me to stream it, and you receive my input as player 2.
Okay.
It's a free service. It's like Discord, but for game streaming, and it's really good. And they've just brought out an Unreal and a Unity APK, so it's all integrated. So you could press a button in the game, host it, and you could send me that link, and I could play my browser. Yes, it only works on PC, and yes, only one person needs to own the game. But I'd rather one person owned it than, I guess, no one buying it. Like one is better than none.
Yeah,
I mean, it's worse than 4, but it's a couch co-op party game, so only one person needs to own it anyway.
Yeah.
But which is a really exciting thing. It's a brand new kind of. The APK is very new, so there's a lot of things. They're still getting feedback, even from us. Like we were like, okay, is this feature coming? And they were like, oh yeah, we'll look into it. Which is nice to be at that kind of level.
Yeah.
To feel like you have an influence and a say over a product which is used by like HP and stuff like that.
Yeah, sounds great.
So we're trying to do that, and then we've got a holiday content, which will be Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And then at Christmas, fingers crossed, we have the PlayStation and Xbox ports.
Wow, exciting!
Yeah, it's insane to have it like running on just consoles. It still doesn't feel like you've released something. I forget that it was like 3 weeks ago. It feels like it was about 2 years ago. That's how much I feel like I've aged.
It's probably because your head's still down working on it.
Yeah.
You haven't had a chance to look up and see,
exactly.
Oh, wait, yeah, people have been playing this and are streaming it and all sorts of things, yeah.
But other than that, like, we're always thinking of new things. I really want to do something with VR. I have an Oculus Quest, and I used to love doing VR stuff. Like, Foggy Box started on VR client work.
Yeah.
So we know it. And I adore VR. And I adore the game Moss. Moss is a fantastic game. I'd love to make a story-driven game like that, where you play from that perspective. I really enjoyed that, rather like a seated experience. That was so new to me. It wasn't stand up, shoot, bang, bang. Pretend to throw something and duck out the way. It was sit. There's a story. You're still having fun with a little character. I like that perspective-based thing. So hopefully something like that. Personally, if not, it'll just be, I don't know. We sort of prototype ideas, come up with ideas, and see what throw it at the wall, see what sticks. Kind of mentality. Yeah.
Oh wow. Well, that brings us to the end of the interview. So thank you very much, Chris, for giving us your time. If you are interested and sound interested by Brunch Club, you can find it on Steam and on Switch currently.
Yes.
I don't know how much is it currently on those platforms.
It's $11.99 on Switch and $9.99 on Steam. In
the meantime, in the comments below, why don't you come up with your own food-based puns for film titles? And Chris here and Alistair can have a look and probably steal some of your ideas, I'm sure, for their future DLC content.
The best one I've ever seen from a player was the King's Peach. which I loved it because it was so subtle. I had to read it twice, and I was like, "That's really good."
That's
But
pretty good.
I don't know what I would do for a mechanic or how that would work as a food.
But I'm thinking mechanic-wise, you could do something like the whole level just stutters every now and then, so it like vibrates. Yeah. That'd be quite
That's
fun.
True. Yeah, that's a good one. See, you're a naturalist.
Yeah, I know.
A natural at food-based level puns.
Yeah.
You're in the wrong business.
This is what I'm going to be doing for the whole night now. Is just thinking of food-based puns.
Well, welcome to my life for the past 2 years.
So everyone leave a comment below about your best food-based pun, and thank you again, Chris, for coming by.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, and we'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.